The Boston Celtics are one win away from winning an NBA championship. What can the Warriors learn as they look to try to get back in contention this offseason? We'll talk about it right now on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Thanks so much for being here. I am your host, Kylen Mills, a play-by-play broadcaster host for the Big Ten Network, NBC Sports Bay Area, a number of other outlets. And I'm very excited to be joined today by another multi-talented broadcaster, host, reporter, analyst, Zena Keita, also with NBC Sports Bay Area and a number of outlets, now NBC National, covering the Olympics. Three things we're going to touch on today's show. What can the Warriors take away from the Celtics and even the Mavs from this NBA Finals, whether it be roster construction, play style? What can they use as they look forward to 2024-25? And then finally, I love playing the game of who stays and who goes as the Warriors do approach that time where they're going to be looking at free agents, possible trade talks happening behind the scenes. We'll get to all that. Zena, great to see you. Great to have you. You have been very busy all over the place, and I'm glad to see you covering some Olympics. How's it going?
It's going well, Kylen. I missed you. We had some great times at NBC Sports Bay Area this past year. It's been great. Honestly, this offseason's been absolutely a whirlwind. Got to announce the Valkyries, the Golden State women's team that's coming in. What else has been going on this summer? Yes, the NBC Universal new podcast, My New Favorite Olympian, telling the stories of some Olympians that you guys should follow this summer. And then as of starting tomorrow, not free agency, but basically, starting the path to free agency for the Warriors. And watching this, I'm sorry, but kind of boring finals.
Dang, we're just gonna go right into it, Zena.
It's been a crazy summer. So that finals has been kind of meh, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very curious to see what this offseason will hold for the Warriors. It was interesting. Jayson Tatum said after the team's Game 3 win over the Mavs, going up 3-0, now looking to close it out, that they learned from the, quote, better team in the 2022 NBA Finals. And referring to the Golden State Warriors, he was asked kind of what Tatum and Jaylen Brown took away from that series that helped them moving into this one. Depending on when you're listening, they may have already won. It seems like it's inevitable at this point. No team has come back from being down 3-0 in terms of the Mavs. Now, what can the Warriors take away or learn from the Celtics or even the Mavs? And I want to start with roster construction and the way that they have built these teams, the pieces that they have. 2 points stick out to me right off the bat. First, I think you need two stars. You can't do it with one, and it's a point that has been really beat almost to the point of a dead horse with the Warriors, that Steph needs help. Number two, the Warriors need to get younger. Seems like a really obvious one, but when you look at the Celtics, Jayson Tatum, 26 years old. Jaylen Brown, 27 years old. Derek White, 29 years old. Kristaps Porzingis, 29 years old. So you're looking at that core and three of the four main guys who lead the team in minutes being under 30, which is not the case for the Warriors. But Zena, I want to hear from you. What are some things when you look at the way these rosters are built in order to achieve this kind of success in today's NBA that the Warriors could emulate?
I think they're already doing it with the point distribution. When you look back at the 2021, 2022 Boston Celtics in the postseason, they had scores. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown were averaging 20 plus points. But then after that, there was a significant drop off. Whereas this year, you're seeing Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown still have their 20 plus points. And then on top of that, you got Derek White in the teens. You have Kristaps Porzingis, obviously with the little bit that we've been able to see him, he's in the teens. And you've got a Drew Holiday all in the teens. So you've got an entire starting five that are producing at least 10 plus points for you. So I think the point distribution is a big thing that they could have learned from the Warriors, because that 2022 team had four of their starters in the teens. Steph Curry was averaging 27 points. Klay Thompson was averaging 19 points. Jordan Poole was averaging 17 points. And Andrew Wiggins was averaging 16 and a half points in that postseason. So now you've got a balanced scoring attack that the Celtics did not have in that first go round with the finals, the last finals they had with the Warriors. I will also say that Boston has a lockdown defender. This is something that the Mavs do not have right now. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the Mavs have to depend on team-oriented defense, which is easily broken down when you go ISO or when you use the really great ball movement that I believe that the Celtics have been utilizing in this postseason. So when you look at what the Warriors were doing back in the 2022 finals against the Boston Celtics, Draymond Green was a great defender, but Gary Payton was their lockdown defender, right? Every team needs one lockdown defender, and right now the Mavs don't have an answer for particularly Jaylen Brown in that last game, or even a Jayson Tatum, to be able to say, if this gets close, we got this man that we're going to put on their best scorer, there being Boston, and Boston is not getting another bucket. We're not allowing them to do that. And the Mavs don't have that. But Boston does. And you're seeing them be able to throw any type of defense at Luka, at Kyrie, at the Mavs, and be able to slow or stall anything that they're trying to get going. So I think those are the two things that they've been able to learn from the Warriors: point distribution and having some lockdown defense.
Defense is, to me, the biggest thing that wins championships. I want to talk about it a little bit more. And I think Luka Doncic has been totally exposed, which isn't a huge surprise. We all knew he wasn't a great defender, but my goodness, he has looked like a cone way too many times in this series. And I think his performance in Game 3 was unacceptable. I want to go back to your point, though, about having a more diversified attack and also having more balanced scoring based on the roster build. To me, that's been a big difference, because when you watch the Mavs, they have Kyrie, they have Luka. That's it. That's the offensive game plan. They came out really strong in Game 3 early on. They were attacking the basket, and those two were able to drive. But when you have a one-dimensional offense and the defense figures out how to shut that down, what are you doing? And that's been an issue for the Warriors just throughout the tenure of this current era, is living and dying by the three. There has to be other options and other ways that you can score. And you go back to that 2022 title run, Andrew Wiggins stepping up and having huge games, attacking the basket, ended up being major difference maker. You had guys coming in off the bench contributing, like Otto Porter Jr. randomly had a couple of big games. But to me, it's also being able to score in different ways. It's going to carry that offense over the finish line. And to me, that's what we're seeing a lot with this Celtics versus Mavs series, that Celtics can score in a variety of ways. They have players who can score in different ways. Is that your take as well? Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at what the Celtics have done in adding a Derek White who can hit your reliable three. That is huge. That is huge. When you talk about Otto Porter Jr., like, that's what he was able to do for the Warriors during that run, was hit those corner threes, particularly. When you think about someone coming in and your main role is to just maintain offensive explosion and just like an energy, that's what Derek White provides. That's what Al Horford even has been providing for the Celtics. Just being able to say, all right, you're not going to be an ISO guy. We're not going to give you a play in which everything is focused on you, but you've got to find your way onto the spots of the floor where, if things break down, you're open for a kick out. If a shot goes up, you're crashing the glass and getting a putback. These are the types of things that the Celtics have right now when you look at their roster and the people that are coming in off the bench. I mean, Peyton Pritchard, even some of his offensive, rebounds and the way he keeps offensive schemes going for his team. Hauser, even being able to hit those big time long threes. This is what a championship caliber team needs. And what's so interesting, though, is that the Mavs had this. When you look at the Mavs post-trade deadline, when they acquired PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, they were scary. They were the best team in the NBA since the trade deadline going into postseason. Now, we know that they were ranked 5th, but if you looked at the product of the Mavericks, their ability to have size inside, rim protection out of Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively II, being able to have outside shooters. Dante Exum tore up the Warriors twice. Like, he was playing really well against the Warriors. PJ Washington, same. Like, these guys were contributing. They were producing. And so that's what you're not really seeing consistently, at least in the postseason, particularly in this final so far. Excuse me, I'll take that back. I will say you've seen it in the postseason thus far for the Mavs, having their wing players step up, like the Warriors had Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, step up. And right now in the finals, they've kind of been a little bit non-existent. And that has what is contributed to, I like the way you put it, that one-dimensional offense where Kyrie's dropping 35, but losing the game. They absolutely need to find some production out of their wing attacks and also take advantage of the fact that the Boston Celtics like to defend and they can be aggressive defending. Get them to foul you. Drive. Go at their bodies the way they're going at yours. Make them tired because, my God, the way that it's so funny that Luka Doncic got his last foul actually trying to defend Jaylen Brown instead of kind of like olaying him to the basket as he had the whole game before. Make them have to do that on their end. Make them have to get in front of you and stop you. And maybe you'll get some fouls too. You'll be able to, tire them out.
NBA Finals Game 4 is coming up. How cool would it be to go to that game? Maybe not so much for Warriors fans. Who wants to watch the Boston Celtics win a finals? But hey, summer's a great time in the Bay Area, for example, to go out to a Giants game at Oracle Park. That has to be one of the top 5 most beautiful stadiums in MLB. They also have fantastic Parmesan garlic fries. In case you haven't tried them, you need to. I'm actually a Chicago Cubs fan growing up in the Chicago area, and they're playing at Oracle in just 2 weeks. I was able to find really cheap tickets through the Game Time app. They're just $15. That's how much the seats were. It was really easy to look at the entire stadium layout with every seat. It shows you the prices, and then you can just pick the right seats for you. It's that easy. There are other app features as well where you can customize your experience. You get flash sales, killer last minute deals, and it's lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first time purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So if you look at the Warriors roster the way it stands now, there should be a lot of changes in this offseason, but as we're talking about trying to find different ways to score, diversifying the offense for the Warriors, do they need an interior scorer? Like, how do they do that? What pieces do they bring in? To me, I look at bringing in a big who can score, whether that be a stretch four. Is that someone who can bang inside and you can force defenses to collapse and draw attention that way to open up for the guys outside? In your eyes, who do they need to bring in to try to bring in some of those different options offensively?
Oh man, how many years have the Warriors been talking about size? Size. Now, here's the thing. I am a big believer in Trayce Jackson-Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Big believer. I think he is capable. He is ready for the moment. Obviously, there are things that he has to learn still and still develop, whether it's consistently finding his own offense within the schemes of the Warriors as they play outside and prioritize their guards, or continuing to play in that pick and roll and continue to elevate in that. But the growth that we saw in just one season was tremendous. Mm-hmm. Tremendous. And so that makes me feel very comfortable with him starting.
Okay. All right. So you're ready to put that out there. Year 2.
I'm ready. I think year 2, boom. Trust him. Go ahead. Let him take that 5 spot. He is a good defender. He still has some things to learn on the defensive end, but he is a good defender. He is active. He's bouncy. He's young. That's big. He's young because the rest of the league is getting younger and more athletic, where the Warriors are holding down some of the best vets you could possibly see, but they're holding them down. Now, holding them down being they're signed, right? They're there and they're we'll talk about one of those big 3. But anyways, let me get back to it. So Trayce Jackson-Davis, given that, there's your size that you have as a starter. Now, who comes in behind him? Right now, It's Kevon Looney, but he is potentially someone that could leave, could be traded, could be, you never know. I believe he has a player option at, $9 million. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm still like, I'll be honest. I'm not fully perfect in communicating all the player options and the dollars and things of that sort. But I know Kevon Looney is a person.
It's so complicated, dude.
That
so complicated.
It is. But Kevon Looney is someone that could potentially head out. And I want to make sure I get this right. So he signed a 3-year, $25.5 million contract in 2022. So upcoming would be the end of it. And he has like this year to figure out what he wants. He's at, let's see, how much money is he making? $8 million.
Mm-hmm.
Next on 2024, 2025, he's going to make $8 million. He's still so underpaid, but he's no longer that guy because Trace is there, right? So now I think my question is, do I want to prioritize getting someone to come in behind Trace Jackson Davis that can bump around so that when he sits down, there's no drop off in terms of energy inside? I don't think that that's more valuable right now than them finding a consistent, dependable wing scorer.
Okay. So are you looking at like a 3-and-D wing size?
Yes. I'm looking for a tall, lengthy wing player, 3-and-D, someone absolutely that can be counted on as shoot, but also can be counted on with a, not maybe the best defensive assignment, but with a solid defensive assignment. Because the number one problem that the Warriors had last year was consistency. And it wasn't just consistency that was caused by so many things that were out beyond their control, whether it was injuries. I mean, the passing of a coach, like there were so many things that were beyond their control. But then there were things that seemed like it is within their control. The play of Andrew Wiggins, the play of Klay Thompson. There were so many aspects of just who's going to show up, who's not going to show up, who's going to have a good night, who's going to play defense, who's going to hit their shots, like who's going to attack the basket the way they should, who's going to rebound well, right? Like there were, actually, I'll say this. Rebounding was the one thing that the Warriors did really well as a team, but still in their wings trying to figure out who was it going to be. Because there's games where Jonathan Kuminga would have 20 points, but 2 rebounds, right? So like there needs to be some consistency, and I want somebody that can shoot. I want somebody that can rebound. I want somebody that can play some defense. And the funny thing that the Warriors have to do right now is find someone that can do all that and not be pricey. And that's where things get very interesting. But that's when you have to start thinking about what you have to open up, right? What money, where can you find that under your payroll? And that involves somebody maybe taking a pay cut, somebody being Klay Thompson, or trading Chris Paul, opening up $30 million, right? There's some options that the Warriors have for sure. But to me, the most valuable thing that they need right now is consistent outside shooting and consistent defense, their perimeter defense particularly.
That perfectly leads into the next point I wanted to touch on. And a thing I think the Warriors can also take away from what the Celtics have been doing is that they have to improve defensively. You brought up needing that one lockdown defender. Back in 2022, it wasn't just GP2 either. It was Andrew Wiggins, who was a lot of times taking that toughest defensive assignment. And where did he go? I don't think he reliably is that guy anymore. Unfortunately, too inconsistent the last, not just one season, but 2 seasons. He's had something going on in his personal life that's unfortunately forced him to step away from the game for a long time. So that's always tough to come back from. And I just don't know that you can look at him. So how can we improve defensively, not just based on the roster construction, defensive schemes? What can change? Because Mike Brown leaving, who was in charge of the Warriors defense during that 2022 run, I don't think can be overlooked. But I do think that defense leads to championships, and that's also been evident in the way the Celtics have been able to lock down the Mavs, as you pointed out, having more of a one-dimensional offense, but the Celtics being the better defensive team and having more athletic defenders. And you look at the 2 leaders or the stars in those 2 teams. Who's the better defender between Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, and then Kyrie and Luka? there's no question to me
Right,
which
of
two are
course.
more athletic and are going to be better and
Right.
more solid defensively, where they're not going to be liabilities you can attack like a Luka. And looking back over the past decade, only two champions, the 2023 Nuggets and 2018 Warriors, won the title while finishing the regular season with a defense ranked outside of the top 10. Six of the past 10
Mm.
champions have boasted top 5 defenses. And you look back at the 2022 Warriors, what they did that season, they were second in defensive efficiency. The Boston Celtics this season, second in defensive efficiency. Now the
Mm.
question, how do they get there? Do the Warriors have pieces and they just need to be changing the scheme? Do they need to really focus on bringing in a 3-and-D who's not just going to be a pretty good defender, but who's going to be a great defender? Do they need a rim protector? What's your take on how the Warriors improve defensively to get back to having a title contending defense?
The thing is, the Warriors, I don't think they need a new scheme, because if you look at what happened, and this goes back to that word consistency, but if you look at what happened when Draymond came back from his suspensions, and,
those suspensions
kind of,
hurt
they did.
defensively, I think, more than anything. Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. But once he came back and he was that anchor directing traffic in the back and also being that very dependable help defender, I thought the Warriors defense picked up, particularly when things broke down on the perimeter. Now, the Warriors defensive issues, to me, not necessarily, I mean, I do think that they make some interesting decisions sometimes in the help defense, coming off ball side to come help and then leaving shooters in the corner. That I will never understand every single time they do that. But overall, if you still have a Draymond Green in the back and you have a Trayce Jackson-Davis, who is a shot blocker, a good rim protector, and will continue to improve in that, your second line of defense is pretty solid. It's that first line of defense. And Steph Curry was doing his best to play some good defense this season, but if he's going to be your primary offensive production, he's going to be tired. He's going to need some help to be able to not be on the most efficient scorer, right? And so that you try not to have him there.
Right.
In past years, that was fine. Steph didn't have to be on the biggest assignment because Klay Thompson could be on that big assignment, or Andrew Wiggins, but you just called it out. Both of them are not in positions, in my opinion, to be that reliable defender anymore. So now it's, and on a top of that, with two of them not able, what's the next option? Brandon Podziemski, who I think is a good defender. He's not big enough. Right?
Yeah.
He does really great things, particularly in help. He is a great help defender. Sometimes he overhelps. He gets a little too excited.
Yeah.
But he creates such good things on the floor when he's there. But sometimes he just can't do certain things because he's just not tall enough. He's not able to, contest certain shots and affect certain vision just because he's not tall enough. That's something he can help. I think he makes up for it in a lot of defensive plays he makes. But at the end of the day, you need some size. So now you're looking at Jonathan Kuminga, you're looking at Moses Moody, and you're like, more of that, right? Long, lengthy defenders. Moody got significantly better on his perimeter defense over the course of the season. He was a liability to start the year. And then towards the end of the year, I mean, you saw how he was against the Knicks on Jalen Brunson. You're like,
yeah,
who's this? You know what I mean? Like, it's so impressive how towards the end of the year, he would take on the biggest assignments and really affect their play, like truly make it hard for these players who were their top scorers on the opposite teams to get their jobs done. So to me, that matters. Making it so that it's not always a Draymond and a Trayce Jackson-Davis and a Kevon Looney having to back up the perimeter defense. Shore that up. Shore and strengthen that up first. And I think that they'll be in a better position because at the end of the day, Draymond Green is a wonderful defensive director. And they also had the luxury of having another defensive director in Chris Paul this past season. But Chris, again, was also not a huge body. So even in help, sometimes he would find himself in trouble because he's coming over to help and someone 6'9" is coming to the basket, right? But overall, if they've got Draymond and they can shore up that perimeter defense, I'm actually not that concerned about the Warriors defense, but they need, I think, size on the perimeter.
I don't know about you, but I am locked in on the NBA Finals. I was hoping this would be a little bit more competitive of a series, but hey, as a basketball fan, watching the WNBA in the finals is all I have until Warriors basketball comes back. And there is a way that you can make game 4 a little bit more interesting, put some money on it, possibly win some cash through PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections, and then you're locked in. I'll give you an example of my picks. Jaylen Brown, 24.5 points more or less. Luka Doncic, 32.5 points more or less for game 4. I'm going with less for both these players. For Luka, I don't feel confident at all that he's going to come in and dominate this game. I think his play in game 3 was unacceptable. To me, the Mavs looked dejected. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA Finals. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Celtics finish out the sweep. On the other side, for Jaylen Brown, it's not necessarily an indictment on him, but because the Celtics are such a balanced attack, I don't think he needs to shoulder that big of a workload. They've proven they have a multitude of scorers who can get it done in a variety of ways. I expect them to close this series out in a hurry. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. I made my first $10 deposit and received an instant $10 bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your 10 into $1,000. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. The game I want to play with you is outside of Steph Curry, who you saving on the Warriors? So there's no question or secret at this point. We are expecting roster changes to come. The offseason just now heating up, and the front office has reportedly been open to making a big change or big changes that would require pieces moving. You touched on some of them with like, is Chris Paul really going to be here? Is Kevon Looney going to be here? But let's say they are going to clear the way for some big signings. If you can keep 2 players on this roster besides Steph Curry, so let's say you can only keep 2, who has to stay and why? It's a tough one. But I'm saying you had to narrow it down to 2.
That is tough. I'll say number 1, Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah.
He is the next generation of this team. He is, to me, I can count 5 players on my hands in this league in his year, like in his class, maybe even less than that, where if they want to get to a spot on the floor, they're going to get there. No one can stop them. And I think Jonathan leads that class. Overall in the league, I think he's on a list of top like 10. He is so talented and dynamic of a scorer. And he just continues to get better. Only continues to get better and only continues to learn the game more and more. It is surreal to think that really his rookie year, and I would say even his sophomore year, just going off of pure talent, just going 100%. Off of just being athletic. Whereas now you're starting to see him understand schemes more, and you're starting to see him play within those schemes even better. And the proof of that was this whole first half of the past year for the Warriors. Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga can't play together. Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga can't play together. Well, guess who played extremely well together?
I'm so
particularly
tired
when
of
Draymond Green came back. Right. It's not a narrative anymore. It's done. That's out the window. And you can credit Draymond Green for that, for being a perfect key, I think, to help those two play well together. But you can really, really credit Jonathan Kuminga learning, particularly in the half court, how to position himself to be efficient as an outside shooter or as a slasher. So to me, absolutely, not someone I would touch. He's going to get more consistent, I think, on the defensive end. I think his issue has been he may give up on plays, or he might not know particular rotations, but he's so athletic. He's so strong. When he does want to defend someone, he's defending them, and he's doing a great job at it. So to me, Jonathan Kuminga is untouchable.
He's gotten a lot better defensively too. I just want to say, even like his rookie and second season, there were so many times where he looked lost And I think he's gotten
Right.
better. There's definitely times where he's still behind on rotations and
Mhm.
maybe he's not 100% in the right place. But like when you look back to where he started to where he's at now, I think both offensively and defensively, scheme wise, he's gotten a lot better in like seeing and processing the game in that way. Just to add on the
Absolutely.
point.
I mean, it's just been so evident that he's watching film.
Mhm.
And he's watching film and he's asking questions. And his teammates have said this in multiple interviews of just how inquisitive he is. And again, this is someone that you've basically taken off of, the draft in raw talent, coming out of that G League Ignite team, just playing off of raw talent. What I saw from him in the G League, raw talent, like he was just playing athletically. And now he's got some strategy to his game. He's got something a little bit more, he's got more substance to his game than just being explosive and athletic. Another person I would not touch. Now, this is tough.
I know.
And the
Here's where it gets
reason,
tougher because I'm with you. I'm like Steph and then JK. And then after that, it gets a little bit muggy. Like, is it for sure Draymond? Because we were talking about this the other day, and a
right.
lot of people in the comments are like, why does everyone say Draymond's untouchable? Like, but Draymond and Steph together. But I also
Yeah.
like pods, and I'm kind of into keeping pods. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing about, so with Draymond and Clay, and keeping the squad together and all that, like that means a lot.
Mhm.
That matters. It absolutely does mean a lot. I think I'm gonna just, I guess I would make a hot take. I hate takes.
Yes, hot takes. We love the hot takes.
I think youth is important. I think
Yeah.
it's really, really important. And I do believe that Draymond and Clay are incredibly invaluable to the Warriors' success and what they're doing. But I think it would be amiss to not look to the future.
Mhm.
As you see parity continue to grow in the NBA, thinking about what's next for the Warriors, and how can this team not completely drop once these guys hang it up, right? Or if these guys, and I'm talking about the big three, including big three plus Kavan, I include him in that. Once they hang it up, like the Warriors can't just start all over again. We see how long that takes for teams to rebuild and get their I don't know, just to get success again. So
Yeah.
to
The Warriors don't
me,
want to go through that. They don't want to start from ground zero, right?
yeah.
After Steph retires and the others.
So to me, I want some offense, and I'm gonna get that out of JK, and I want some size. And I'm gonna say Trace. I want to keep
Woo!
Trace Jackson-Davis.
That is
Yeah,
maybe a
I
hot
know.
take. I love it
I
though. I
know.
love it.
I know. I just
I
feel
love
like
it.
he's so they're actually kind of the opposite. Like I just spent this time talking about how Jonathan Kuminga came into the league just like off pure talent and raw talent and athleticism, whatever. And I feel like Trace Jackson-Davis came into the league, someone that had already spent 4 years in college,
Right.
really well educated all around schemes and
Polished. Yeah, I
concepts,
think
and
polished
very
on that side of the
polished. That's
game.
a great
Mhm.
word for it. Very
Mhm.
polished. And is also similarly growing and getting better and studying and watching film. And I just feel like those two, I really want to keep for the future of the Warriors. So, boom.
I
There
love
you
it.
have it.
Boom. Hot take. Trace Jackson-Davis is the other guy that you are absolutely not putting in any conversations as trades come forward, and the Warriors look to maybe offload some contracts in free agency. Obviously, he's a youngster, so the contract isn't really a concern. Last
Sure,
one for you
exactly.
here, real quick. It's been awesome watching you get to really flourish while covering the Warriors. You've got incredible basketball knowledge. And I've been trying to give the fans a little peek into just kind of what goes on behind the scenes for some of our folks. What's like a favorite moment, a fun memory for you from covering the Warriors these last
Mm.
couple of seasons that sticks out, or something that you can give people a little bit of insight on?
Whew, that's a good one. Great question.
So, for
I
example, I'll tell you, Erin came on yesterday and said
Yeah.
that Doris Burke complimented her jacket at a TNT game, and
Yes,
that
I
she like
remember
fainted.
that
Stop it,
day.
you remember? I
Yes.
was like,
Oh
girl,
my
I
gosh, she
would
was
have
in the hallway
fainted.
squealing. It was amazing. She was so happy. She
I
was like,
love
"No, no one
that.
can tell me anything else. Like, you can't say anything else to me.
Dude,
Doris
I
Burke
love
liked my
that.
outfit." And I was
I
like,
love
"That's
that. That's so
That's
funny
pretty
that
amazing.
you actually even know that story makes it so much better.
Oh, I
That
remember the
she was
day.
like, "I'm not even going with a story related to a Warriors player. It's Doris Burke." And I said, "Yes, queen.
There
Yes,
you go.
Doris is the pinnacle of women in sports." So you can go any
Yeah.
direction with this.
Memorable moments. I mean, for me, I just like loved being on the court and doing, you know, analysis while being in the arena. It was so loud at Chase this year. And I'm really proud of the Chase fans because a lot of people were looking at them like suspect last year. Like to the point that like I think it was during the finals, or not the finals, excuse me, during the playoffs going into the finals, like Steph Curry had to be like, like, come on, like
Yeah,
give it some
yeah.
noise. And so I think they've set their game up and it would be like deafeningly loud in there being courtside. I really love being on the court for those pregame moments. I also loved, and this is something that is very behind the scenes. So whenever, and I think Kylen, you've done this for NBC Sports Bay Area, but basically, if you are on Dubs Talk Live and you're hosting, usually, you would be able to do post-game interviews with the players. And you're
Right outside the
basically
locker
in
room.
a little area right before the room to the locker room and the room to the media room. And you're just sat there with your producer, like your camera person, just like waiting for players to come. And I saw so much in that little space of time of just like whether it was Steve Kerr meeting with the family that was there to, see them from somewhere like in Taiwan or something like that. Or the time that Jordan Poole came back and him dapping up all the like arena attendees and all the coaches and everyone, and him like sneaking into the locker room afterwards and like being happy with his old teammates. Like I got to see so many different cool interactions in that back room. That there's that video of Steph Curry's son turning around to Klay Thompson and be like, "Hi, Klay Thompson." Like I was there, like it's those little moments that like they're now off guard, right? They're on their way to the locker room and they're chilling. I really love being back there because it was like a little glimpse into their highs and their lows. Like if they lost, like how they felt coming back into the locker room or whatever it was. And then also having players come out when we won, that's when we would get to interview them. But when the Warriors won, I also often got like the younger players. So I got to interview like Pods and Trace and Moses and JK like a lot. And it would just like always be something, whether it was like a compliment on the shoes or realizing like none of them would come out with like proper shirts or whatever it was. Like it would just be a blast. So that would be.
I've seen the interviews where they're in wife beaters and stuff.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if we're even allowed to say that anymore. Like that was like, but yes, wife beaters, like white tank tops, and you're like, I just.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No jersey.
White tank tops.
White tank.
Old term, former term. Don't come at
former
me.
term, exactly. But either way, yeah. So that was a really cool thing too.
I love that. Well, you've done such an amazing job. It's so much fun to watch you. Thank you so much for coming on. The insight, the knowledge, the energy you bring, the personality is so much fun to watch in NBC Sports Bay Area. Where's the best place people can continue to follow your career and your content?
You got it right here on the video, but for those listening, it's Zena Keita, ITSZENA KEITA. That's my handle for everything. So just follow me, particularly if you want Warrior stuff. X is where it's at.
The girls got all of the insight. All right, well, Locked On has launched the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Again, Zena, thank you so much. It has been a blast. We're going to have to get you on again because you always bring the heat, girl.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Kylen. Always a lovely time.
We'll see y'all next time.